Hi, everyone, and welcome to this information session that we have on the CORRIE project. My name is Sean Lacey. I'm the Research Integrity and Compliance Officer for the university, and I'm delighted to be able to, I suppose, start off or kick off this information session, which is looking at building on a project that we had actually started back in 2024, thanks to support from Intuitor. So CORRIE, which you can see there on the left-hand side of the screen, stands for Collaborative Open Resources on Research Integrity and Ethics. So back in 24, we got funding from Intuitor to develop resources, open educational resources, and we looked at developing them on research integrity and research ethics. And then we were very fortunate last semester to actually be awarded SATL funding to the National Forum for the Enhancement of Teaching and Learning in Higher Education, which was channeled through EDSU and the Department of Technology Enhanced Learning. And our focus for the with the funding, with the focus, or I suppose the call for the funding was with a focus on reusable learning resources. And we pitched the idea of developing resources around animal care, welfare, and ethics. And the purpose of these resources would help to support students and staff that are engaged in research or engaged in teaching with animals, along with the work of the university's animal welfare body and the Animal Research and Education Ethics Committee. And the project here, and I'm going to introduce you to the project team now in less than a minute, but just say that the project is actually going to be is a collaboration with Chagas as well. And so anyone in the room would realize Chagas is a well-established entity when it comes to animal research and animal education. So we're delighted to have them on board and to be a partner with this. Up on the top right-hand side of my screen there, you'll see a QR code. That is just to give you access to the CORRIE resources that have already been developed through that Intuitor funding and what we'll be adding on the next layer to. Dr. Tom Farley, who's here with us as well, will actually showcase those later on as well in this session. And I suppose one of the main reasons why we wanted to do this and this session was, I suppose, to introduce it, to let everyone know that the CORRIE project is here and our aim, but also as a mechanism for you to provide feedback to, we're going to share our development plan and then for you have an opportunity, whether it's now or later on, to actually provide feedback on what we aim to do. So look, just to introduce the team, because look, I'm fortunate enough to actually be able to introduce it here, but there is a very strong team with phenomenal experience in animal research and education that I would also like to introduce. So my own name, obviously, as I said, Sean Lacey, Research Integrity and Compliance Officer in the university. Also on the project team is Dr. Garode Sayers, who's the chairperson of our Animal Research and Education Ethics Committee, and who has a research interest in the improvement of calf health and welfare during the distance transport within Europe. Also, we have Rose Fitzgerald, who's a contract researcher and research with on animals. And Rose's expertise is practicing veterinary nurse in an equine hospital. Dr. Declan O'Connor, who's the senior lecturer in the Department of Mathematics and would have a research interest in dairy economics, and is also a member of our Animal Research and Education Ethics Committee. And actually, just going back to Rose there, Rose is a member of both our Animal Research and Education Ethics Committee and the Animal Welfare Body as well. Also on the team, then we have Dr. Peter Stewart, who's the chairperson and the compliance officer to our animal welfare body. And Peter's in research interests would include disease ecology, particularly parasitology in wild mammals. Then we also have Dr. Laura Boyle. Laura is a senior research officer in Chagas and brings phenomenal experience both at a national and international level in terms of animal care, animal welfare, and animal ethics. And actually, Laura led out on a CPD session for the Animal Research and Education Ethics Committee back in September last year. And so we're very fortunate to actually have Laura as a member of this CORRIE team and inputting into the resources that we're going to be developing as well. And then last but no means least, then we have Dr. Tom Farley. Tom is the chairperson of our Human Research Ethics Committee and is a member of the Animal Research Ethics Committee and comes with phenomenal experience. But I suppose, one of the main parts to the CORRIE project and that Tom will really be leading out on, and we'll actually talk about now in a couple of minutes as well, is the instructional design behind actually developing the CORRIE resources. And maybe just to kind of give a sense of the resources, and this is a very kind of, I suppose, an overview of it really, of look what we have done in the initial part of the CORRIE project, but we will be building on as well, is we've used the Articulate Rise 360 platform to build a series of asynchronous multimedia self-contained learning objects to support compliance of researchers and educators with animal care, welfare, and ethical requirements locally, nationally, and internationally. So the resources that we will be developing will entail media-rich components consisting of interactive documents, audio and video files, and self-testing opportunities to practical scenarios and dilemmas encountered in the areas of animal care, welfare, and ethics. The work plan that we have for the actual project is we've broken it up into 4 phases. So the first phase is actually the planning, and we're actually at the end of that first phase here. Actually, this is the final part of that first phase, which is the planning around the resources that we will aim to develop, and Garode will actually speak to them now in a couple of minutes as well, and looking for your feedback before we actually move into the phase 2 of actually developing the resources. And developing those resources will happen over the course of, so we're in February at the moment, so February and March. And then when we've the resources developed or kind of near finalization, we will look at testing them with future end users like yourselves here in the room to get a sense, look, are the resources doing what we hope them to do? And so we will look at soliciting feedback and then gathering the feedback and maybe tweaking what we actually have developed with a view of launching the actual resources formally in a hybrid event on the last Wednesday in May. It will be a hybrid event with the in-person element all going well beyond the Kerry campus also. So you can see, look, with the end of May being the launch, it's tight turnaround time, but we're hopeful that we'll be able to do it, and we're looking forward to the work ahead. It will be a busy period of time, but the output hopefully will be something that will be of use to researchers, students, staff alike, along with the animal welfare body and the Animal Research and Education Ethics Committee. But after that, now I'm just going to hand it over to Dr. Garode Sayers, who's just going to speak to the plan. What resources do we actually plan on developing, as in what is the content? So over to you, Garode.
Thanks, Sean. Sean, I wanted to take a few moments just to describe what we do in terms of within the ethics committee and what we're aiming to develop here then within this project. The concept of animal research, it's almost impossible within an or within an educational facility like MTU not to be conducting some kind of research on animals, either through an education or through a blue sky research perspective. Our aim within the ethics component, within our own ethical framework, is that any scientific research that is done is carried out to the highest ethical standard. Certainly within research, it is all about this harm-benefit analysis. And with a harm-benefit analysis, the idea is that you minimize harm and you maximize outputs from whatever research that you would do. And the purpose of our ethics committee is to, well, employ that harm-benefit analysis, that utilitarian approach to animals, and to make sure that what is got out of the research or the education minimizes animal pain, animal suffering, and maximizes what's going to come in terms of benefit to animals or benefit to humans. So this proportionality is very much at the center of what we do within our ethics committee. And we always try and make sure that the outcomes will always outweigh the harm that will come to the way of the animal. It might surprise you to understand that animals being regarded as sentient, in other words, able to feel pain and worthy of our consideration when it comes to pain, is quite recent in our legislation. Within Europe, it was 2009 that the animals were first recognized as being able to perceive pain. In the UK, it was just 2 years ago that they brought it into their own national legislation. And here in Ireland, it's still not in our own national legislation. However, we are covered by the European component of it. But it is working its way through legislation. But that sentient is essential to what we do. But just as an FYI, it's still not well recognized in legal standing. I will come back to that in a few moments. From our perspective, we certainly do recognize animals as being sentient beings. And in our research and in well, particularly our role within ethics, we make sure that we prioritize the sentient nature of animals in what is being done. When we do evaluate a project, we want to make sure that it has high scientific value. And we play the principles of the three R's. First of all, we ensure that if at all possible, animals are replaced. And nowadays they can be replaced with tissue culture, they can be replaced with in silicone, there are organs that can be used as opposed to the animals themselves. So we'll always ask researchers and educators to prioritize the replacement of animals before they consider animals at all. The second R is reduction, and we reduce the animals, or the number of animals that are used to as minimum as possible, but yet getting sufficient information from the research. And you do that through, well, good design, which is what we analyze, good statistical approach is what we analyze, but also in terms of using technology, using the best, most sensitive equipment that you can pick up on information that would otherwise not be available, and that you can reduce your animal numbers that way. And then we prioritize refinement. We put a lot of emphasis on this. And with refinement, it's about minimizing that pain to the animal, maximizing their comfort, minimizing their stress and their suffering. And it's how we go about that. In terms of our analysis, we use the 5 domains model. In other words, we like to make sure that the animals have good nutrition, that they're well fed while on a research project or educational project. We also evaluate their housing, that they're comfortable in whatever environment that they're in. They're protected from the elements, that they have good health, that they're not exposed to disease that is not outside of what is within the research, and that they're able to express their normal behavior and their affective state, their mental state. Is one that would be well prioritized and not negatively affected by the research. So they're the domains and they're the 3 Rs that we follow within the ethics committee when we evaluate a project. And we believe then that a project that goes through our analysis and through our procedures will be a project that has that harm benefit analysis with minimal harm and maximum benefit. What we do is underpinned by legislation, particularly from the research perspective. So there's the 2010 legislation that makes it very clear what needs to be done when it comes to animal research. And the ethics body that we have here today is just one element of that. So there is good accountability on what is done. There is excellent transparency. We ensure that there is adherence to welfare standards. And I think the purpose of this was to, well, highlight what we do and how we do take it seriously, and that we do prioritize animals at every corner of research and education within MTU. We do acknowledge that there's challenges. We do acknowledge that some people don't recognize this as being correct at all, but we certainly, do push the boundaries in terms of maintaining a good animal welfare during research. So, Sean, that's pretty much all I wanted to add. I hope I've given you a sense of what we do within the ethics committee and how we're going to then bundle that into what you're presenting here today, Sean, and what we're going to have by the end of May is certainly something that someone can come onto our website and get a good, transparent idea of our expertise and what we offer here at MTU.
Thanks very much, Guru. That's perfect. What I'll do now is we'll hand over to Dr. Tom Farley, who's actually going to speak to the actual CORRIE resources that we've already developed and what we will be building on through with thanks to the reusable learning resource funding. So over to you, Tom.
Thanks very much, Sean. So just give me a moment here. I will just start sharing my screen here. So if people can see the screen okay here. So this is what the CORRIE looks like. And I suppose one of the things here is we're also mindful of walking the walk and talking the talk. So it's informed by a number of things that we want to try and achieve in how we sort of share that information. First of all, if you can see here, it's under the Creative Commons license, so that's important. These are all publicly produced and supported initiatives, so it is important that we do that. In terms of accessibility, it's not just about being open, but if you see up here in the top right, so we're in the preview of it here. And one of the things I particularly like about Articulate Rise 360 is it enables you to look at a number of different platforms. Is that coming up clear on the screen, Sean? Yep.
Yeah.
So as I said, like we live in a world where people actually want access to information. They're not always going to be at their laptop. So you can see here at phones and tablets, and it'll give you the options then to look at all of this stuff. So it's very important there that we do that. I'll just go back now just to make it more visible on this in terms of the laptop one, the laptop view. But as you can see, so there's a whole different range of different units. So I'm just gonna click on here. So as you can see here, we're trying to make it visually attractive, bite size. But one of the points that Garrod made there, I mean, people here are experts. It's all informed by different, it's like to say that in this case here, the National Research Integrity Forum, and so it's everything here is going to be underpinned. You mentioned Europe there, growth. So the same thing here with the human research ethics. Everything is underpinned by best practice legislation and so on. But we're also trying to make it a little bit more integrative and a bit more interesting in terms of just visually. So just the material is just broken up wherever possible. This here is an introduction. Here you can press play and it'll bring you back. But also in terms of universal design for learning, uh, we also have audio text, and underneath here we have an audio transcript. So I suppose in terms of, I think there's no point in those of us involved in research ethics and integrity and not walking the walk and talking the talk as well. So we are trying to sort of impress upon everybody here that we're providing lots of information, but also making it interactive, UDL, more information here. Once again, so breaking up visually, key takeaways. So there's a number, I'm just going to flick through a number of these different ones here then like that. So community engagement, you can still see. So once again, it's just visually attractive. Hopefully that there's videos again, the same thing again. There is a video, there's also a transcript. So as I said, there's lots of research sites people can jump in and out. And we've designed it in such a way that uh, one is not mandatory to the other. You can jump in and out and just sort of make it accessible for people. Because a lot of times, particularly, they won't necessarily have the time or the requirement to jump in and out and do a whole course like that. But once again, as I said, it's they'll be able to jump in and out on the different sections here. Also, knowledge check. So we have scenarios here. So we said we're given information, and I suppose sometimes like scenarios enable us to tease out, because a lot of times in research ethics and integrity, it's not necessarily a black and white yes no answer. So we've tried to sort of capture that, and we'll be capturing those ideas of presenting you with the information and then just giving you scenarios then to, as you can see, to consider the nuances of trying to take you through. And then each unit then will always just finish up then with key takeaways and a set of resources. So I suppose it's meant to be accessible, visually attractive, UDL principles, evidence informed. Everything here is going to be informed by best practice, by relevant legislation, policies, and procedures, but also giving you opportunities for information, for interaction, and further resources. I appreciate it's a very whistle stop tour, but I'm sort of mindful of that, so giving you a sense of the sort of work which is possible here in terms of what we can provide. I hope that sort of does enough for you there, Sean, and for those watching.
Yeah. That's brilliant, Tom. Thanks very much for that. It's even though I was part of it, that journey for the first phase of the CORRIE resources, it's still just I suppose It's so nice that you see that you demonstrating it there and just seeing that interactivity with it and just the accessibility and just how you were mentioning about the openness and the UDL principles. And look, that's how we try to develop all those resources initially. And it's what we will aim to be doing with these phase two with the resources around animal care, welfare, and ethics. Um, just for those that are actually in the room here live, the link to the resources, those resources gone into the chat. Those that might be watching this as a recording afterwards, if you scan that QR code there that's up on the screen on the top right hand side of the screen, you will be able to get access to those resources. And also then another way of getting access to these CORRIE resources are on the research integrity webpage that we have in MTU also. So this is that we're nearly at a close then for this session, and just maybe the last thing and that we wanted to be able to I suppose touch on is to kind of get your own feedback. Like we're quite passionate about what we're developing, and we're quite excited. You can hear the growth speaking just so well about the various kind of I suppose resources that we do plan on developing and the reason and the rationale that we plan on developing them. But I suppose we very much do welcome your feedback as well to look, are we on the right track in terms of the resources that we plan and develop that we aim on doing? Like for us, there's no point us going off and spending loads of time developing these resources and then for not to be of use to the end users. So there's a form there up on the top right hand side of the screen. Again, there's a QR code that you can scan it. Sinead will pop a link into the chat also, and it's just a way for you to maybe provide feedback on, is there anything in your area in terms of animal care, welfare, and ethics that you would like to see covered. And so, like potentially, it is being covered. You can see Garo mentioned a good few things that we will be touching on, but maybe there's something that we're missing or we haven't considered, and we would really welcome your feedback on that. And so you can get access to that using that QR code or the link that's in the chat. And I think after that, then really it's just a thank you for, I suppose, supporting this information session. Again, it's a project that we're very excited for. So thank you for being here for this, and for anyone that's actually watching it afterwards. Thanks very much for your interest. Again, we do welcome your feedback. Also, massive thanks to EDSU and the Department of Technology Enhanced Learning that actually put their faith in us actually to award us the funding to develop these reusable learning resources. And so thank you very much for that. And thank you then for the team that, said, allowed me to kind of, I suppose, lead out in this session here today. And thanks very much for Garode and Tom to speaking to each of their parts. So look, I think we could leave it there in terms of the actual information session, but we very much welcome it. If there's any actually feedback that people like to stay on and ask questions, that's absolutely fine as well.